It was broad daylight inside the training gym. Sunlight poured through tall glass windows. Mats were clean. Equipment lined the walls. Athletes moved with focus and discipline. This was not a movie set. This was real. Seagal stood near the center, relaxed posture. Confident smile. People recognized him instantly. Whispers followed his movement. Chuck Norris trained a short distance away, quiet, focused. Methodical, no cameras around him, no need for attention. Everything felt normal, safe, controlled, predictable. Then Steven laughed. Not a loud laugh, a casual one. The kind that sounds harmless. He made a sharp comment about Chuck Norris, a joke disguised as confidence, a remark meant to show dominance. A few people smiled, some laughed nervously, most stayed silent. The room reacted late. Chuck Norris stopped moving. Not fast, not slow, just enough to be noticed. He lifted his head, turned slightly, eyes calm, focused, unblinking. No anger showed on his face, no emotion at all. That was when the air changed. People felt it before they understood it. The noise softened. Footsteps slowed. Even breathing felt quieter. Steven noticed the shift. His smile faded just a little. Confidence can be loud, but real presence does not need sound. Chuck did not respond with words. He did not react emotionally. He simply stood there. Still, grounded, unmoved. That silence carried weight. This was not about rivalry, not about ego, not about proving strength. This was about respect. In moments like this, the smallest action matters. A look, a pause, a decision. Steven realized too late. Some lines do not announce themselves. They appear only after you cross them. The crowd felt it now. Something had shifted permanently. No shouting followed. No dramatic confrontation. No chaos. Just a single moment, clear, sharp, unavoidable. Confidence had met consequence. And everyone in that gym understood one thing. The strongest person in the room does not laugh the loudest. He controls the space without raising his voice. Have you ever seen confidence turn into regret in seconds? Sunlight poured through large windows and washed across the gym floor. The space felt open and alive, bright, orderly, calm. Athletes trained in every corner. Some practiced footwork, others worked heavy bags, a few stretched quietly along the walls. Cameras rolled in the background, not aggressively, just enough to capture training moments. Nothing staged, nothing forced. This was a place of routine, discipline, familiar rhythm. Seagal stood relaxed near the center mat, arms loose, shoulders open, a confident smile rested on his face. People noticed him. They always did. He carried presence that drew attention without effort. Steven spoke casually with a small group, laughing, gesturing, completely at ease. A short distance away, Chuck Norris trained alone, no audience, no conversation, just repetition and focus. His movements were clean, every strike controlled, every step deliberate. He did not look around. He did not acknowledge the cameras. He did not seek recognition. Both men shared the same space, yet their energy was different. Steven filled the room outward. Chuck anchored it inward. There was no tension, no visible rivalry, no reason for concern. To everyone watching, it felt ordinary. Two legends in one place, a rare but calm moment. This is how most confrontations begin, not with hostility, but with comfort. People feel safe in familiar settings. They assume respect is automatic. They believe boundaries will not be tested. That assumption is dangerous, because moments that feel harmless lower awareness. They relax attention. They invite mistakes. No one in that gym expected conflict. Not the athletes, not the trainers, not the people behind the cameras. The atmosphere encouraged ease, light conversations, casual smiles. It was easy to forget that reputation carries weight, that words can shift power, that silence can speak louder than action. Steven's confidence felt natural. Chuck's calm felt invisible. Yet calm is often misunderstood. People mistake it for absence. They confuse quiet with weakness. In reality, calm is restraint. It is choice. It is discipline refined over time. The most dangerous moments rarely announce themselves. They arrive dressed as normalcy. A relaxed environment creates blind spots. It allows small comments to slip through. It lets ego feel comfortable. This gym was not tense, it was peaceful. And that is exactly why what followed mattered. The most dangerous moments look harmless at first. Steven laughed louder than before. Not aggressive, not hostile, confident, casual, public. His voice carried across the gym. People heard it clearly. Too clearly. He made a joke about Chuck Norris, about his age, about his old school style. The words were framed as humor, but the intent landed sharp. A few people laughed. Quick laughs, uncomfortable laughs. Some looked at the floor, others looked toward Chuck. The energy shifted instantly. Chuck Norris stopped moving. No sudden reaction, no dramatic pause, just stillness. His stance relaxed, his breathing steady. He slowly turned his head. Not to challenge, not to intimidate, just to acknowledge. There was no anger on his face, no irritation, no ego, only focus. The kind that comes from decades of discipline. The kind that does not need explanation. People felt it before they processed it. Something was different now. The gym felt quieter, not silent, but muted. Footsteps slowed, movements became cautious. Stephen noticed the change. His smile held, but not as easily. Confidence often expects agreement. It assumes laughter will follow. This time it did not. Chuck did not speak. He did not react outwardly. That restraint spoke louder than words. Respect is not demanded, it is felt. And in that moment respect filled the room. Some people shifted their weight, others stopped filming. Eyes moved back and forth, from Stephen to Chuck. They sensed something important, not conflict, but consequence. Disrespect does not always cause noise. Sometimes it causes awareness. Chuck's calm presence created pressure, not physical, psychological. It reminded everyone of something simple. Skill does not announce itself. Experience does not need volume. Stephen had spoken from comfort. Chuck responded with control. That contrast was impossible to ignore. The joke lingered in the air, unanswered, unreturned. And that made it heavier. People realized this was no longer casual, no longer harmless. A line had been crossed, not with violence, with words. The most dangerous kind. Chuck remained still, eyes forward, posture grounded. He was not reacting, he was deciding. Stephen felt it now. Not fear. Awareness. Confidence without restraint often forgets one thing. Every room has limits. The gym had found its limit. No one interrupted. No one laughed again. The moment stretched, then settled. The disrespect had landed, and it could not be taken back. Everyone understood that something irreversible had happened. The calm before was gone, but chaos did not replace it. Something stronger did. Control. Have you ever felt a room change in 1 second? Chuck Norris stood still for a long moment, not frozen, centered. He could have ignored the comment. Most people would have. Ignoring is easy. It avoids attention. It keeps the surface calm. Chuck understood that option clearly. But this was not about comfort. It was about respect. Disrespect spreads when it is left unchecked. It teaches the wrong lesson. Chuck had spent a lifetime learning restraint, control over reaction, control over ego. This moment tested that discipline. He did not feel anger. He felt responsibility. Responsibility to the space, to the people watching, to the standard he represented. He took one step forward. Not fast, not slow, deliberate. His posture was firm, balanced, grounded. Every movement carried intention. Eyes locked onto Stephen, not challenging, not hostile. Clear. This was not a threat. It was a boundary. The gym felt smaller now, attention narrowed, breathing slowed. Chuck spoke quietly. Say that again. 3 simple words. No insult, no explanation, no emotion. The power was in the restraint. Silence followed immediately. Not awkward silence, heavy silence, the kind that demands awareness. Stephen did not answer. For the first time he hesitated. Confidence usually rushes forward. This time it paused. Chuck stood his ground, still, unmoving. He did not advance further. He did not raise his voice. He allowed the moment to breathe. This is where inner conflict lives. Not in action, but in decision. Chuck could escalate. He could demonstrate skill. He could dominate physically. He chose not to. Restraint was the message. Everyone watching felt the shift. They understood what was happening. This was no longer about a joke. It was about standards. Chuck's presence reminded the room of something forgotten. Respect is not optional, it is foundational. Noise often hides insecurity. Calm reveals certainty. Stephen felt exposed, not attacked. Words suddenly felt heavier, more permanent. The cameras did not move. No one spoke. Time stretched. Chuck waited. Waiting was the strength. By not reacting emotionally, he controlled the direction. By standing firm, he removed escape through humor. This was a choice rooted in discipline. Chuck had chosen principle over pride. He did not need to prove who he was. His history already had. The silence did not break because it did not need to. It delivered the message fully. The room learned something in that moment. Power does not rush. It arrives and holds space. Chuck remained calm, eyes steady, breathing controlled. This was confidence without performance. And it was unmistakable. True confidence does not need noise. Stephen smirked as if the moment had not reached him. He tilted his head slightly. A familiar expression of confidence returned. Laughter escaped his mouth. Forced. Defensive. He tried to turn the silence into humor. One more joke, louder this time, sharper. The words were meant to reclaim control, to remind the room who he believed he was. The crowd leaned in. People sensed escalation now. Not physical, social. Eyes widened, phones lifted higher. Stephen's voice filled the space, but it did not carry authority anymore. It carried tension. Chuck Norris did not react immediately. He nodded once, small, contained. A gesture that acknowledged reality. Then he reached for his jacket. Slowly. No rush, no drama. The sound of fabric shifting was louder than any word spoken. He slipped the jacket off, folded it carefully, placed it aside. The movement was calm, precise, intentional. This was not aggression, it was preparation. No threats were made, no insults returned. Chuck did not raise his voice. He did not step closer yet. He simply stood ready. That readiness changed everything. Stephen noticed it immediately. His posture adjusted, his smile tightened. The crowd felt the shift as well. This was no longer verbal. The line had been crossed, not by motion, by refusal to retreat. Escalation does not always come from speed. Sometimes it comes from commitment. Chuck's calm readiness communicated one message. This will not be a joke anymore. People stopped breathing loudly. Movement in the gym slowed to near stillness. No one interrupted. Everyone understood what was at stake. Stephen had options. Step back, apologize, de-escalate. Pride rejected them all. The need to save face outweighed judgment. This is how escalation truly happens. Not from anger, from ego. Chuck stood centered, feet grounded, hands relaxed. Nothing about him looked threatening. Everything about him looked capable. That contrast was unsettling. Stephen's confidence had relied on image. Chuck's confidence relied on reality. Two different kinds of power now faced each other. The gym was no longer a casual space. It had become a test. Not of strength, of restraint. Chuck did not move forward. He did not rush the moment. He allowed Stephen to decide. That patience applied pressure more effectively than force ever could. The silence returned, heavier than before. People watching felt the weight of responsibility in the air. This was no longer entertainment. This was consequence approaching. Stephen realized too late that humor could not undo intent, that volume could not overpower calm. Chuck remained still, ready, not eager, not emotional, just prepared. The line had been crossed, and everyone knew what came next would be irreversible. Stephen stepped forward. Not rushed, not hesitant. A decision finally made. The space between them closed by one step. That was all it took. Chuck moved first. No warning, no build-up, just action born from timing, one controlled motion. Clean, efficient, precise. There was no explosion of movement, no wild exchange. It happened so fast most people did not understand it at first. Stephen felt it before he saw it. His balance disappeared. Not violently, not painfully. Simply gone. His body reacted too late. Chuck had already redirected his center, shifted weight, closed angles. Stephen froze. Not from fear, from surprise. Off balance, unable to respond. In that instant, everything changed. The confidence, the posture, the narrative. All gone. Chuck held him there. Not tightly, not aggressively. Just enough to prove the point. The gym was silent. Not a single voice. Not a single step. People realized what they were seeing. This was not strength on display. This was mastery. Chuck could have continued. He could have taken Stephen to the ground. He could have caused damage. He chose not to. He stopped, right there. Before harm, before pain. He released Stephen immediately. No shove, no follow-through, just a step back. Stephen stumbled once, caught himself. Embarrassed, exposed, but unharmed. That mattered. Chuck did not look for approval. He did not scan the room. He did not need reaction. The message had already landed. Skill does not need to linger. It speaks once. The authority in that moment was undeniable. Not because someone was hurt, but because someone could have been. Restraint is the final proof of control. People watching understood that instantly. This was daylight, open space, witnesses everywhere. Nothing hidden, no exaggeration, just clarity. Stephen stood still, breathing heavier now. His body had learned something his mind had not expected. There are levels, and he had just seen one. Chuck stood calm again, hands relaxed, posture neutral. The same man as before, as if nothing had happened. That contrast was powerful. He did not celebrate, he did not warn, he did not explain. He simply allowed reality to settle. Reality does not argue. The silence in the gym was not shock, it was understanding. Everyone present knew what they had witnessed. Not dominance, not humiliation, correction. Stephen had crossed a line, Chuck had drawn it back, cleanly, without chaos. This is what true authority looks like. It arrives quietly, acts decisively, leaves nothing unresolved. No words could have carried the message better. The body learns faster than the ego. Stephen learned. The room learned. The cameras captured it. But the lesson was not visual. It was psychological. Power does not chase attention. It ends moments and walks away. Chuck had nothing to prove. That is why it worked. He did not defeat Stephen. He corrected behavior. And then he let go. That release said more than the control itself. Because it showed choice. And choice is the highest form of strength. Skill speaks louder than words. No applause followed the moment. No cheering. No noise at all. Only silence. Not awkward silence, respectful silence. The kind that settles in when everyone understands what they just witnessed. Stephen stepped back slowly. His face was serious now. The smile was gone. Not replaced by anger. Not replaced by embarrassment alone. Replaced by awareness. He adjusted his stance. Looked around briefly. No one laughed. No one spoke. The room had changed permanently. Stephen nodded once, small, contained. No excuses were offered, no words attempted to reclaim the moment. Sometimes the strongest response is acceptance. Chuck Norris had already turned away. He walked back to the mat, picked up his jacket, placed it where it had been before. He returned to training. The same movements, the same rhythm, the same calm. As if nothing had happened. That detail mattered most, because it showed this was never personal, never emotional, just necessary. The gym slowly returned to motion. Athletes resumed practice. Trainers spoke quietly again. But something had shifted inside everyone present. They moved with more awareness now, more respect. The cameras kept rolling, not chasing drama, documenting discipline. By the end of the day, the clip began circulating, first privately, then publicly. It spread fast, not because of violence, not because of humiliation, because of restraint. People replayed the moment again and again, not to watch someone lose, but to watch someone stop. Comments flooded in. Not insults, not hype, reflection. People recognized something rare, humility displayed in real time. Stephen did not argue the footage, he did not deny it. He let it exist as it was. That silence spoke volumes. Chuck never addressed it publicly, never explained, never justified. He did not need to. The moment stood on its own. In a world addicted to noise, this restraint felt powerful. The story traveled beyond the gym, beyond fans, beyond reputations. It became a lesson. People saw how real power behaves. It does not shout, it does not mock, it does not linger. It corrects, and then it moves on. Stephen learned that day, not through pain, through perspective. Chuck reinforced something he had lived by for decades. Respect is not demanded. It is enforced quietly. The gym became a reference point, not for conflict, for character. Those who witnessed it firsthand spoke less afterward. They did not need to embellish. The truth was already strong enough. The strongest moments do not require explanation. They leave clarity behind. Stephen walked out later that day changed, not diminished. Chuck walked out the same as he entered. Centered. That contrast stayed with people. One moment created growth. The other revealed consistency. That is the real difference between confidence and power. Confidence reacts, power remains. This was never about winning. It was about boundaries. The lesson echoed long after the video stopped playing. Mockery weakens authority. Correction strengthens it. Real power does not humiliate. It educates. It gives space for learning, and then it releases. That is why the moment mattered. Not because it happened, but because of how it ended. Quietly, cleanly, with dignity intact on both sides. Real power does not mock, it corrects.